I was caught digging through trash by my ex, who was now the mayor of New York City. The cold metal of the dumpster pressed against my arms as I rummaged through the bags looking for empty cans and bottles that I could turn in for deposit money. It was a humiliating low point, but the only way to scrape together enough for rent and food that week when the headlights of a black SUV illuminated the alley and a voice I had not heard in 5 years called out my name. "Ethan, is that you?" Marcus said, stepping out from the vehicle with 2 security guards close behind. His face was the same as I remembered from our college days at NYU and the 4 years we spent together after, but now it was framed by the confidence of a man who had just won the biggest election in the city. The mayor. My ex. The man who had left me because being with me openly was too risky for his political ambitions. I froze, my hands still buried in the garbage. The smell of rotting food filled my nostrils, and the shame burned hotter than the embarrassment of being seen like this. "Marcus," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Or should I say Mayor Lang? Fancy seeing you here. I guess the campaign trail does not always stay on the high road." He motioned to his security to stay back and walked closer. His suit was impeccable even at this late hour. "What are you doing, Ethan? This is not the guy I knew. The one who was going to write the great American novel and change the world with his words." I climbed out of the dumpster, wiping my hands on my faded jeans. Life happened. I lost my job at the online magazine when they downsized. The rent in Queens went up again. You know how this city eats people alive if you are not on top. I am just trying to survive. Marcus looked at me with a mix of pity and something deeper, regret perhaps. "Get in the car. We can talk. I can help you." "I do not need your help." I snapped back, the old wound opening instantly. 5 years ago he had chosen his career over us. He had said the relationship was too much of a liability for a man aiming for public office in a city that still had its share of prejudices. He had come out later during the campaign making history as an openly gay mayor, but by then I was long gone from his life, nursing the betrayal. But the rain started again and the cold seeped into my bones. Reluctantly I got into the SUV. The warmth and the leather seats were a world away from my reality. As we drove through the glittering streets of Manhattan, Marcus told me about the election, the long nights, the attacks from opponents who tried to use his sexuality against him, and how he had fought to win anyway. I listened half in disbelief. The man beside me had everything I had dreamed for him, but the price he paid was our relationship. "Why did you stop the car?" I asked finally. "Because it was you," he said quietly. "And seeing you like that brought back everything I tried to bury." The conversation flowed into the night as we sat in a quiet corner of a 24-hour diner that his security cleared for us. He asked about my life, my failed attempts at writing, my strained family ties back in Ohio where my parents had cut contact when I came out at 22. The pressure from them to live a straight life had been constant even before Marcus. "They still send letters sometimes," I told him, telling me to repent and find a good woman. As if that would fix everything. Marcus nodded, his eyes full of understanding. His own family was political royalty in New York, and they had accepted his coming out, but only because it became a selling point for progressive voters. Still, there were whispers and pressures from old money donors who were not as open-minded. As the night wore on, the old chemistry sparked. The way he looked at me, the gentle tone in his voice, it was dangerous. I could feel the pull, the romance that had once been so strong. But I knew the cost. Being with the mayor would put me in the spotlight, and I was not sure I could handle the scrutiny or the pain if he chose power again. The flashback came unbidden. It was our last night together in his small apartment in Brooklyn. Marcus had paced the floor, telling me that the consultants said an openly gay candidate with a partner would face too much backlash in the primary. "I love you, Ethan, but this is my dream. I have to do this alone." I had cried then, but let him go. The price was my heart and 5 years of wondering what if. Now here he was offering help, and the same eyes that once held my future were looking at me with hope and guilt mixed together. I left the diner that night with his private number and a promise to call if I needed anything. Back in my tiny studio apartment in Queens, I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the cracked wall. The encounter had stirred up feelings I thought were dead. Love, betrayal, pride, and the heavy weight of societal judgment all crashed over me. I had spent years building walls to protect myself from the pain he caused, and now those walls were cracking. The question that kept me awake was whether I could afford to let him back in or if doing so would cost me what little dignity I had left. The next morning, the reality of my situation hit harder than the rain from the night before. I woke up in the same cramped apartment with the same stack of unpaid bills on the table. The meeting with Marcus felt like a dream, but the number in my phone was real. I told myself I would not use it. Pride was the only thing I had left, and accepting help from the man who had walked away would feel like admitting defeat. I spent the day collecting more cans from different alleys, trying to stay invisible. By afternoon, I had enough to buy a cheap meal and pay part of the electric bill. As I walked home, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was a job lead at a small community newspaper in Brooklyn. The email said they were looking for a freelance writer, and the contact had been referred by a friend of the mayor. Marcus had not been able to stay out of it. Anger rose in my chest. I called the number he had given me. "I told you I did not want your charity," I said when he answered. "It is not charity, Ethan," Marcus replied calmly. "It is a legitimate opening and you are qualified. I just made a call. The rest is up to you." We met again that evening in a small park near City Hall. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the benches. Marcus wore a casual jacket but still looked every inch the powerful man he had become. We walked along the paths talking about the years apart. He admitted the guilt had eaten at him, especially after he came out publicly during the campaign. "I thought being honest about who I was would make up for how I treated you," he said. "But it did not. I missed you every day." His words touched the part of me that still cared, but the practical side knew the risks. My family back in Ohio had seen a blurry photo from the diner leak on a gossip site. My mother had called that afternoon, her voice full of disappointment. "People are saying you are hanging around with that mayor. Ethan, you know what the church says. This is not the life we raised you for." The pressure was familiar, but now it carried the weight of public attention. Marcus listened as I described the call. "Families can be the hardest," he said. "My parents supported my run, but they still ask when I will settle down with someone who fits the image. They mean someone who will not rock the boat too much." The conversation turned deeper. We talked about the moral dilemma he faced as mayor. He wanted to push for more affordable housing and protections for the LGBTQ community, but conservative donors threatened to pull funding if he appeared too radical. Helping me openly could be twisted into a scandal. "I have to balance what is right with what is possible," he said. I felt the pull again, the romantic connection that had never really died. His hand brushed mine as we sat on the bench, and for a moment the world felt right. But I pulled back. "I cannot be your secret again, Marcus. I paid that price once and it nearly broke me." He nodded, understanding, but the hurt in his eyes was clear. We parted with an agreement to meet again, but I knew each choice carried a cost. That night, I applied for the job anyway. Pride was important, but so was survival. The internal conflict raged. Was accepting a small help a betrayal of my independence or a smart decision in a city that showed no mercy to the struggling? The following days brought more tension. The freelance gig came through and I started writing again. Small articles on local issues. It felt good to have purpose, but every time I saw Marcus on the news, I wondered if our paths crossing was a second chance or a setup for more pain. Family pressure mounted with another call from my father warning me that associating with a high-profile gay politician would only confirm their fears about my choices. The societal prejudice was not abstract. It was in the voices of the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. Marcus texted, occasionally checking in. Each message stirred the old love, but also the fear of what it would cost us both if we let it grow again. The decisions we made now would define the price we paid later. Weeks passed and the freelance work became steadier. I moved to a slightly better apartment in Brooklyn using the first real paycheck in months. Marcus and I met more often in quiet places away from cameras. Each meeting brought us closer. We shared meals, talked about books, and laughed at old memories. The romantic tension built slowly, like a current pulling us together. One evening we sat in his private office at City Hall after hours. The city lights twinkled outside the window. "I have been thinking about us," Marcus said. "I made the wrong choice 5 years ago. I chose ambition over love, and I have regretted it every day since. Being mayor is everything I worked for, but it feels empty without someone to share it with." His honesty moved me. I told him about the nights I spent wondering if I had fought harder for us would things have been different. The internal struggle was real. Part of me wanted to forgive and rebuild, but another part feared the public eye and the judgments that came with it. "What if being with me hurts your work?" I asked. "You have donors who are already uneasy about your personal life." Marcus took my hand. "I am tired of hiding parts of myself. I came out to win, but I want to live openly too. You are worth the risk." The moment felt romantic and full of possibility. We kissed for the first time in years, and it was like coming home. But the next day reality intruded. A staffer saw us leaving together, and word spread quietly within the administration. Marcus faced questions from his chief of staff about keeping the relationship private to avoid early scandals. At the same time, my family escalated. My sister called saying my parents were considering a visit to New York to talk sense into me. "They think you are throwing your life away again," she said. The prejudice was clear in her tone, even though she tried to soften it. I felt torn between the love I was rediscovering and the loyalty to my roots that demanded I conform. Marcus and I discussed the dilemma over coffee in a hidden cafe. "I can protect you from the spotlight," he offered, "at least for now." But I knew that protection came at the cost of honesty. Hiding again felt like repeating the past. The confrontation came when a tabloid reporter called me asking for comment on rumors about the mayor's new companion. I denied everything to protect him, but the lie sat heavy. That night Marcus and I argued for the first time in our renewed connection. "You cannot keep shielding me," I said. "It will eat at us both." He admitted the pressure from his team. "They say one wrong move and the opposition will use it to undermine my housing initiatives. The very things that help people like you." The moral conflict was stark. His ambition to do good clashed with his desire for personal happiness. I walked away from that meeting hurt but determined. The next days were filled with reflection. I wrote an article about hidden struggles in the city using my own experiences without naming names. It gained traction, and for the first time in years I felt my voice mattered. Marcus read it and called praising the work, but the distance between us grew as we both weighed the costs. Family arrived sooner than expected. My parents showed up at my door with suitcases and sermons. The dinner we shared was tense. They praised my new job but warned that any association with Marcus would ruin any chance of reconciliation with them. "We love you," my mother said, "but we cannot support this lifestyle." The pressure mounted from all sides. Marcus faced a donor meeting where hints were dropped about keeping his personal life discreet. I faced the choice of standing by him publicly or stepping back to ease the burdens. The romantic feelings were stronger than ever, but the price of pursuing them was becoming clear. Each decision carried consequences for our careers, our families, and our hearts. The tension reached a new level when a photo of Marcus and me at the cafe surfaced on social media. It was innocent enough, two men talking closely, but the comments exploded. Some celebrated the mayor finding love. Others questioned if he was distracted from city business. The opposition seized on it, calling it a sign of poor judgment. Marcus called me in a panic. "My team wants me to issue a statement denying anything serious. They say it is too soon for this kind of attention." I felt the betrayal sting again. "So we hide. Again." "It is not that simple," he replied. "I want to be with you openly, but the timing could cost us the progress we have made on key issues." We met that night in his residence. The conversation was raw. I accused him of choosing power once more. He defended his position, explaining the real-world trade-offs. "If I lose support now, the housing bill that would help thousands in your situation dies. Is that the price you want me to pay?" The moral dilemma hit hard. My desire for a real relationship clashed with the greater good he was fighting for. I left angry, but the love remained. Over the next days, I saw the toll on him. Marcus looked exhausted in news clips as he defended his record while dodging personal questions. My family saw the photo too. My father left a voicemail saying they were disappointed and would not be in touch until I sorted out my priorities. The rejection hurt, but it also clarified something. I had spent years trying to earn their approval at the expense of my own happiness. Perhaps it was time to stop. I reached out to Marcus and we talked honestly. "I am willing to stand by you," I said, "but only if it is real. No more hiding." He agreed, and we decided to go public slowly. He invited me to a small charity event as his guest. The night was nerve-wracking. Cameras flashed as we arrived together. The romantic atmosphere between us was evident to everyone. Supporters cheered, but I noticed the uneasy looks from some donors. The price came quickly. 2 major contributors pulled funding, citing concerns over the mayor's focus. Marcus faced internal pushback from his staff, who felt blindsided. I faced online harassment from those who opposed his agenda and used our relationship to attack. Yet, in the quiet moments after the event, when we were alone, the connection felt worth it. We talked about the future, the possibility of building something lasting. The internal conflicts were still there, but facing them together brought a sense of awakening. I realized my worth was not defined by my family's acceptance or societal approval. The drama escalated when a former aide leaked details of our past breakup to the press, framing Marcus as someone who abandoned partners for ambition. The story painted me as the victim and him as the villain. Marcus had to decide how to respond. Denying it would be a lie. Owning it meant admitting past mistakes in public. I supported him through the crisis, helping him craft a statement that acknowledged the past while focusing on growth. The decision to be transparent cost him politically, but gained him respect from many in the community. The price was real, but so was the progress in our relationship. The scandal peaked during a major city hall press conference. Reporters pressed Marcus on his personal life and the leaked story. He stood at the podium and spoke from the heart. Yes, I made mistakes in the past. I ended a relationship because I feared it would hurt my career. That was wrong. I have learned that leadership means being honest in all parts of life. Ethan Harper is an important part of my life now, and I will not hide that. The room erupted with questions. I watched from the side, feeling a mix of pride and fear. The romantic bond between us had survived the test, but the backlash was immediate. Conservative groups called for investigations into whether personal relationships influenced city contracts. My own writing career faced scrutiny as some outlets questioned my objectivity. Family pressure reached its height. My parents flew back to New York and demanded a meeting. In a hotel lobby, they laid out their ultimatum. "Choose this path, and we cannot support you anymore," my father said. The pain of their words was sharp, but I had grown. I told them I loved them, but I could not live a lie to make them comfortable. Marcus faced his own family crisis. His parents urged him to distance himself from me to salvage donor relationships. The internal struggle was visible in his eyes during our private talks. "I have fought for this city," he said, "but fighting for us might mean losing some of the power to do good." We spent long nights weighing the options. One path was to step back quietly and protect his agenda. The other was to stand together and accept the consequences. The betrayal from the leaked story added another layer. We discovered the aide who leaked it had ties to a rival political faction, hoping to weaken Marcus. The confrontation with that reality brought us closer. I encouraged Marcus to fight the attacks head-on. He did, and in the process he championed a new initiative for mental health support in the LGBTQ community, drawing from our shared experiences of prejudice and family rejection. The climax came at a public town hall. A protester confronted me directly, asking if I was using the mayor for personal gain. I took the microphone and spoke truthfully about my struggles, my love for Marcus, and the price we both paid for authenticity. The crowd was divided, but many applauded the honesty. After the event, Marcus and I walked along the East River. The city lights reflected on the water. "Whatever happens," he said, "I choose you this time. No more trade-offs that cost us our happiness." The decision marked a turning point. We faced reduced funding and increased scrutiny, but the relationship grew stronger. The awakening was mutual. Marcus learned that true leadership included personal integrity. I learned that my voice and my choices mattered regardless of external validation. The months that followed tested us in new ways. Marcus lost some key allies but gained broader public support from those who valued authenticity. His housing bill passed with compromises, but it passed. I continued writing and landed a full-time position at a respected outlet where my perspective on social issues was welcomed. Our relationship became a quiet strength. We attended events together openly, and the initial shock faded into normalcy for many. Yet the costs remained. My family maintained their distance, though my sister reached out, occasionally showing signs of softening. Marcus navigated the ongoing political pressures with a renewed sense of purpose. One evening we sat on the rooftop of his residence looking over the city we both loved. The romantic atmosphere that had drawn us back together felt deeper now, forged in the fire of conflict and choice. We paid a high price, Marcus said, but I would do it again. I agreed. The betrayals, the family pressures, the societal judgments, and the moral dilemmas had forced us to confront who we were and what we valued. The awakening brought clarity. Love was not separate from the fight for a better world. It was part of it. As we held hands, the future stretched ahead with both promise and uncertainty. The story of how a moment in an alley changed everything reminded us that second chances come with responsibility. In the end, was it right for them to risk their careers and family ties for love, or should they have chosen safer paths to avoid the pain and controversy that followed?